Hello, listeners. This is Crystal Love, a member of BDO, initiated into the Gamma Omicron chapter at Tougaloo College in the fall of 2006. I'm employed with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks as the Director of Support Services. Today, my role as the host of Sitting Pretty, BDO Turns 90 podcast will take a journey down memory lane from 1974 to 1983. I am most excited to have as our guest for episode 6, Mrs. Mitzi Deese Page. Mitzi Deese Page is a resident of Jackson, Mississippi, and holds a Juris Doctorate degree from Tulane University and a Bachelor of Arts degree from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. She's an assistant United States attorney in the United States Attorney's Office, where she represents the United States in medical malpractice defense, tort claims, and employment claims against the United States. She also handles affirmative civil rights cases. She is a third-generation member of the sorority and most recently served as the 26th Southeastern Regional Director for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Missy served as a chapter president from 1997 until 1998 as the 33rd chapter president of Beta Delta Omega chapter. She holds life membership and has 41 years of membership with the sorority. Hello, Mitzi Deese Page. Welcome to the 6th podcast series, BDO Turns 90. I'm confident that listeners will look forward to your insight on the chapter's civic and community outreach during 1974 to 1983.
Hello, Crystal. I'm honored to share some of the rich history of Beta Delta Omega chapter with your listeners.
As the chapter navigated this era, listeners want to know who were the chapter leaders and their initiatives which strengthened BDO's foundation of service, sisterhood, and scholarship.
As you mentioned, there were many community outreach initiatives and collaborations during this time frame. Mildred Bernie Kelly served as the chapter president from 1974 to 1975. She was appointed to the National Cleveland Job Corps Center project, which provided free career training and education for young adults. Currently, Mrs. Kelly is the senior member of the Chapter President's Council. During President Kelly's tenure, the chapter provided items of necessity to the residents of the Cleveland Rest Home and Mississippi State Hospital. Mildred Kelly was initiated into Gamma Rho chapter at Jackson State University in 1956.
Wow, Mrs. Kelly was a trailblazer for the Beta Delta Omega chapter and Gamma Rho chapter at Jackson State University, right?
Yes, I've known Miss Kelly all of my life. She remembers me coming to AKA meetings with my mom, Barbara Deese, wearing my white high-top shoes. It's one of her favorite memories of me. But I'm so proud that Mrs. Kelly is now a Pearl member with over 65 years of service to AKA. And Gamma Rho will celebrate its 75th Charter Day this year on April 24th, 2024. It's a great time to be an AKA.
We could have dedicated this podcast to Mildred Kelly, but due to time constraints, we must move on. Mrs. Page, can you give any details on Ora Portis Perkins?
Well, Crystal, Ora Portis Perkins represented Beta Delta Omega as its 23rd president from 1976 to 1977. Her administration supported the National Urban League, Cleveland Job Corps Center, Opera South, and the NAACP. Beta Delta Omega hosted the inaugural area cluster in 1977, which was then a new concept for the sorority. Area clusters were developed under the leadership of the national president, Bernice I. Sumlin. Area clusters are still in existence today. Moreover, during Ms. Perkins' administration, Esther Martin Rigsby served as cluster coordinator during Savannah Jones' 15th Southeastern Regional Conference. Personally, I remember working with Ms. Perkins as a teenager because she was the liaison with the Candy Striper program at St. Dominic Hospital, where I volunteered at the hospital through Beta Delta Omega. Another noteworthy imprint of Ora Perkins was the development of a candidate's handbook. This has evolved to what the sorority now uses as the candidate's membership experience manual.
Mrs. Page, yes, we know AKA has policy and procedures for everything. More importantly, BDO has a rich heritage for developing leaders. Please tell us about the other chapter leaders and the focus of civic and culture engagement.
Janie Lynn Carey's administration was 1 year during 1978. The chapter continued its outreach through both cultural and civic experiences. Activities were completed for residents of Cottage Grove Nursing Home and St. Dominic's Hospital. The Mississippi Health Project was implemented as a national program for the sorority, which provided health screenings for impoverished communities in the Delta. The signature fundraiser was called Fashionetta. High school students competed for the title of Miss Fashionetta. And speaking of fashion, Miss Carey was one of the most fashionable women I knew. She was so stylish. But the young ladies raised money prior to the culminating event of Fashionetta. The proceeds supported scholarships for high school students, as well as other chapter programs. Dorothy Williams, another senior member of BDO, was the chairman of the event, and Miss Renita Cotton was crowned the first Miss Fashionetta in 1978.
Wow, that is amazing. If memory serves me correctly, Fashionetta was retired and replaced with Jazzy Jean's Brunch in 2013. Nevertheless, we still fundraise to bring impactful programs to the Jackson metro area. Mrs. Page, tell listeners about the next president that served the chapter for 3 years from 1979 until 1982.
Yes, Crystal, you were speaking of Dr. Mary McDaniel Fowkes. She represented the chapter as BDO president, as you said, from 1979 until 1982. Her imprint in office included developing a community partnership with the Bethlehem Center, whose mission is to care and educate low-income and disadvantaged children while providing comprehensive child development and nutrition. The organization also strives to aid the neighborhood and low-income families by offering affordable child care services. Can you believe that the Bethlehem Center still provides daily tutorials for neighboring preschool and middle school students? Teachers and chapter members assist the students with didactic and cultural experiences. Also, during this time, the chapter completed its final installment for life membership with the NAACP in 1979. Lastly, during Dr. Fowkes' administration, the chapter amended its scholarship recipients to include Jackson Public Schools, St. Joseph Catholic School, and Sumner Hill High School in Clinton, Mississippi. Mary Fowkes was all about the business of AKA.
Dr. Fowkes' administration was truly impactful. Well, Mrs. Page, the last president to discuss today is A. Carolyn Hackett. When did she serve the chapter, and tell the importance of her administration?
A. Carolyn Hackett's term as president occurred in 1983. The chapter supported Opera South, Cottage Grove Nursing Home, Wiggin Street Community Welfare and Health Center, Arts Alliance of Jackson, and Hinds County, Mississippi Cultural Arts Coalition, as well as Jackson Public Schools Challenge Bowl, which is a friendly competition amongst peers where they can test their knowledge on various topics. During her tenure, the membership grew to 71 members. Crystal, can you believe that we have over 350 members now? The scholarship award was renamed the Florence Octavia Alexander Scholarship to acknowledge and salute chapter charter member Florence Octavia Alexander. And on another personal note, I've known Miss Hackett forever and a day as well. In fact, Mrs. Hackett served as my wedding coordinator almost 32 years ago.
Well, listeners, this brings us to the end of podcast 6. We give a heartfelt thanks to Mitzi Dees Page, 26th Southeastern Regional Director and 33rd Bachelor's, for being our guest. We invite you to mark your calendar for our next series that will be posted on April 15th, 2024. It has been my pleasure serving as host, and we thank you for listening.